Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. I am Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach, and I am joined by the one and only Mr. Andrew Hansen. And we are here on this wonderful Wednesday, September 16th, and we are going to go over the single game for this Thursday, which is Boston and Miami. So we are fired up, man. Are you ready to break this down?
I am. Unfortunately, you mentioned those two teams, Boston and Miami, and I have to remember what happened at the end of game one. And as someone who grew up in New England as a Celtics fan, that really wasn't the ideal ending for folks around here. That was just an incredible block by Bam. So, I mean, you really, even though Celtics fans, you got to tip your cap to him because that was such a phenomenal play. I mean, Tatum was winding up for the dunk to tie it, and it didn't look like anything could possibly stop him. He was well above the rim. He wound up, and for Bam to block it with his left hand like that, right by the rim,
Crazy.
Man, they earned it.
You know, the only other block I can remember in all the years I've watched playoff basketball, from the 70s, is Dikembe Mutombo had a big block towards the end when he played for the Nuggets, and they were the 8th seed, and they won that game and won that series, and it never had happened in 8 versus a 1. But it's literally that long ago since I've seen that quality of a block. And you can't blame Tatum, like you said. He didn't go up soft.
No.
He cocked that sucker. He was ready to bring it down.
He was.
And I don't know how you make that block in real motion time and clean as that was. That was unbelievable.
It was really phenomenal.
It was amazing.
Just for unfortunate because Boston had it in the fourth quarter.
They did.
They let it slip away. So they are really in a tough spot here. They had 1-0, right staring them in the eyes, and now they're down 0-1.
The psychological part of it, easy for me to say, is definitely a big part of it too, because you're chasing a little bit then because you feel like you gave one away. But we talked about it on the pod the other day. This just reeks of an awesome series.
Yes.
6-7 games, just a battle. Two teams that most people didn't pick to be in the Eastern Finals. So this is exciting. It's going to be great. And I want to mention too at the beginning here. I've really starting to endure myself. You're winning me over on the showdown slate now.
Good.
And I like it because you're able to manipulate the capped, and I really like the 2.0, the 1.5, and the 1.2. It allows you to really use some strategy on FanDuel. It's a little more cut and dry on DraftKings, but I'm starting to like it. But I do want to mention my sweet spot more is both DraftKings and Yahoo are offering a 2-game slate with Thursday and Friday's game combined. So what we're going to do today is we're talking about this game tomorrow. We're recording it the night before, which is going to be Miami and Boston. And then for our members and those in Discord with us, we're not only going to put out showdown lineups tomorrow, but we're going to put out a bonus lineup on DraftKings and Yahoo for the 2-game slate. And, now that fantasy draft has completely gone away, Yahoo with their pricing and everything is pretty cool. And they have some really good low-rake contests and some no-rake contests. So we're really gearing up and, providing full lineups for FanDuel and Yahoo. And we're also providing that coach's clipboard for our DraftKings members. And to flip it up a little bit for those that try to fast forward through different sections so they can just hear our picks, let's talk real quickly about our membership and that super fall special that's designed for the Sugar Shane and Andrew fans of NFL.
That's right. Perfect time to get it. It's our membership that runs the rest of this calendar year. So you save on the monthly price and you get access to all of our sports. And the reason we set it up is because NFL just kicked off. So you get our NFL plays, 3 times a week because obviously we're playing the Sunday main slate, but we also play actually 4 times a week because we play the Sunday night showdown,
Yeah.
Monday night showdown, Thursday night showdown. So 4 sets of NFL picks with the full FanDuel lineups, the DraftKings coaches clipboard, and the Yahoo lineup. And then you get basketball 7 days a week, PGA once a week, and MLB 7 days a week. So with this
Awesome.
strange year and all the sports happening together, we thought the fall special would be ideal now that we've got football kicked off.
And we'd love to have you join us for sure. I just had a flashback though that makes me laugh because you're a little lower in the screen today for this one. Right. And it made me remember. For you guys have to go back and see this. You're gonna.
No, you don't. You don't have to go back.
We made a bet in this fall on a game, and he lost, and the loser had to do the show with no shirt.
Yeah.
And all you could see was the top of his head and just the top of his shoulders. You got to go back. If you want to catch any of those podcasts, just go to YouTube, DFS Coach Talk. We have great previews of all the NFL teams too. So it's still early. Catch any of those, and I'll apologize in advance if you catch the one with Andrew with no shirt on. So we want to thank our presenting sponsor, which is our good friends at BetUS. Go to betus.com.pa for all of your sports wagering, casino, horse racing, everything action-wise. Great props, and they've been around over 25 years. I've been a member for 13. Great payouts. They do a great job. So you can sign up by going to dfscoachtalk.com and just clicking on the banner that says 125% free play, and that's what they give you. Let's say if you're a big player and you put in $1,000, you get 1,250 free play. So man, you cannot beat that for sure. And it's in different increments if you play a lot less. So we love our friends at BetUS. And we're going to dive into this game. I've got, we'll talk about pricing on both DraftKings and FanDuel and a little bit in Yahoo too, because again, it's just, I want to start getting our members used to that a little bit because the pricing is just so dramatically different on how they do it there. But why don't you give us, before we go into the actual odds and stuff, why don't you give us a quick feel for what you think's going to happen as far as from the game script side, because that's really what's helped us throughout this playoffs is sort of talking it through, looking at some matchups. How are these teams going to head into this game? We don't have any major injuries, so that's good. Gordon Hayward has been practicing a little bit, but he's still listed as doubtful. I don't think he comes back unless they get in the finals, but that's just me. But we'll keep an eye on that. So sort of what's your initial feel on how they're going to roll out there tomorrow night?
Well, the big thing for me is Jason Tatum.
Okay.
The analysis for Tatum is important for the game itself, and obviously that transitions over into the DFS showdown lineups. So before game one, I wasn't as interested in playing Tatum as I am going to be in game two. And that's for 2 reasons. One is game one was part of that 2-game slate that we played with game 7 of Denver and the Clippers. And so I was more focused on Jokic and the stars in that game. But now we have a showdown slate, and we saw what happened in game 1, which is that Tatum just, took the game and tried to take it over himself down the stretch. I mean, he was taking every big shot, the 3 at the end of regulation where he just pulled up, just down the stretch, really. He was the guy. He wanted the ball. He took the big shots, and he ended up with a terrific game in terms of fantasy.
Yeah.
So, even though they put some tough defenders on him, Jay Crowder, Butler, I mean, they mixed and matched. He's tall enough. He can shoot over those guys, and he just didn't look like he was going to be stopped, unless you got to Bam at the rim with that dunk. But just general mentality, I saw that he wanted to take over and be the team leader. And so you saw Jaylen Brown take a back seat, not get quite as many shots. Kemba had another poor shooting night. And, with the way that the game ended, with Tatum getting blocked at the rim, obviously he's going to be motivated to come out and finish this one off. So I'm all about Tatum here. I have not been on him that much. You know, there was a stretch there in the Toronto series where he didn't do that much. He did come on at the end of the series, and he was terrific here in Game 1. So if for me, it's actually going to start with Tatum. And I mean, you know that I don't always play Tatum, and I don't always use an expensive player as a captain on DraftKings, but I think he fits. So he's probably my leading candidate to be the captain on the showdown team on DraftKings.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that he is hands down, and all due respect to Butler, I completely respect him. I think Jason Tatum is the best player on the floor for either team. I mean, he's got every aspect of the game, inside, outside. He can rebound, he can pass. He's playing a lot of point guard, actually. And, I mean, he just has it all. And he's a good defender, really good defender, plus defender. So, I mean, I know he's expensive, but I think it begins and ends with him, with the Celtics. I mean, obviously, Kemba's in a funk. So, you got to steer clear of him until he breaks out. If you want to keep, I know a lot of people have been saying, I'm going to roll with him. I want to have him when he busts out. Well, I'm sure that didn't work out the last 3 or so games. So, right. He's just not feeling it. Tatum is by far the leader. Jaylen Brown is dangerous. I mean, he certainly can do it. Now, they did, my big thing was, who's Butler going to guard the majority of the time? Because, that's certainly a deterrent for that player. And he spent some time on Tatum, and Tatum owned him really in sections. And then he also, when they put Crowder on him, he spent some time on Brown, and that definitely hurt Brown's progress. So, yeah. I think Tatum, I agree with you 100% with him. I think that's where you begin and end. And then after that, I mean, as far as the Boston side goes, you've got a lot of guys you can consider, some mid-level, some value. I mean, and it's the same candidates that we keep mentioning, but the Marcus Smarts, the Daniel Tices, those guys at that price can help you round out a nice showdown lineup. And certainly in a, if you're playing the 2-game slate, it starts giving you an opportunity, to get a little value in there. So also want to mention on the odds in this game, right now, you want to take a crack at the line, the early line?
It wouldn't surprise me if it was the same, right in the same area, maybe Boston -1.5.
It's Boston -2.5. So even though the Heat take that game down, Vegas leaning towards the Celtics. Over/under is about the same, 208.5. So if you're playing a 2-gamer, and the following day's game is 212. So it's not going to be like you have to stack one side or the other. And the Lakers, by the way, are an early 7-point favorite over the Nuggets. So, unless you're scripting a blowout, I don't think you have to load up in this game if you're playing a 2-gamer or fade it. But if you're playing the, what we're talking about here mainly is, this showdown slate. And I'm with you. I believe that it's going to be hard for me not to have Tatum as my captain. And I know that's dead ass chalk. And we're not usually big chalk players. We very often have contrarian lineup, but it's hard to come up with a scenario that I can look at in this game that he's not the highest DFS points scorer. I mean, Bam's going to get his, Butler's going to get some of his. Dragic, who had a fantastic game, regardless who was guarding him. All those guys are going to get theirs, and you'll get some from Brown and Smart and all these guys, but just the cut above for me is Tatum. So I'm with you on that one. From the Heat side, that was the biggest surprise in Game 1 for me is, to throw Smart at Dragic and, just try to get him off stride, man. Dragic was fantastic. So the old guy is showing up for sure. I'm not against going with him, but his price has become more and more prohibitive. So, You got to look at that one a long time. You know, the guy, you know, I could sing for you. Did you ever know that you're my hero? There you go.
Yep.
You get a little tune, too.
He was terrific.
Isn't he coming into his own just right in front of us? A 21-year-old kid, and he is the man. So if I'm going to sing about this guy, you think I'm going to play him?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he almost got a triple-double. You know, he has been one of your favorites. And, you know, we talked about it. He was going to be in down the stretch, and he was. He played all the way down the stretch and in overtime.
Has he hit a three the last minute of like 6 straight games? Seriously.
Well, he's one of those guys, despite his youth.
It's crazy. Yeah.
He goes up late, and you expect it to go in. He's that good of a shooter. He's that.
And they're not easy shots. That one was leaning in, avoiding contact. It's like, what? Yep. But I'm with you. Yep. And his price is still good.
His price is still good. And I wanted to mention that Duncan Robinson did get into foul trouble. So I don't know if we'll get 35 minutes of Hero in regulation, but the way that he's playing, it's going to be hard to keep him off the floor. And it's funny that you mentioned Dragic and Hero, because those are two of the guys that I would consider as captains on DraftKings other than Tatum. And you know me, I like to look for the mid-priced guys as a captain on DraftKings, because the price goes up for your captain. Whereas
on DraftKings,
it does not on FanDuel. So you just take the guy in general that you think is going to score the most fantasy points, put him as your captain over there.
What do you think? Tatum, like 80% captain?
Yeah, Tatum 80% captain. So on DraftKings, you know, it's often different for me, because if you go to a mid-tier guy, then you can get one more stud in your lineup. However, on this slate on DraftKings, if you put Dragic or Hero up there, you don't really get that much in terms of a benefit for salary when you put Tatum back in as a utility guy. You know, you don't get the normal bump up like you do where if you take a mid-tier guy who usually more like 5 to 6K, and then if you do that, you can get one more stud. But these guys, like you said, Dragic is up to 7.8 as the utility, and Hero is 7K. So they're just not that much different in price than Tatum, where it's as attractive to me as usual. So I'm going to keep, you know, continuing to play around with it. But for this one, it is trending more towards 80% Tatum as captain over there as well.
I'll tell you the other guy that I have to mention here, because his usage right now is the highest it's been this season, and which is extremely unusual that you get a guy multiple games now to have a higher usage than he had throughout the season or the playoffs, and that's Jay Crowder. The ball's in his hands. He's getting rebounds, assists. He's taking big shots. I mean, this is a guy that they traded for, that was in the rotation, and then they put him back in the starting lineup once he had a few games under his belt. And I just, you know, at his price, with the amount of time he's getting and the fact that, you know, he's going to be on the floor a lot because of his defensive prowess, I think he's just somewhat of a top candidate for me as well.
Yeah, he's been so steady, averaging about 5 threes made per game for the last 5. You know, he's taking a lot of threes, making a lot big shots, you know, mixing in some rebounds and getting good minutes. He's a nice mid-tier option, really steady, and basically every format, every slate, he's been good for us. Showdowns or, you know, 2-game slates, he's been terrific. So, you know, the guys that we haven't talked about much from Miami, Butler and Bam, really interesting, because those guys are tremendous. They're really consistent DFS wise, but I've got some builds here that don't include them on FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a little bit easier to get one of them in there.
You're a monster Jimmy Buckets guy too.
I like him. You know, a guy who's usually around 8K on a normal slate that can go for 45 to 50 fantasy points. I do like to get that in the lineup. Here, you know, the pricing is always a little bit different on a showdown slate. He's 9.2.
Yeah.
On FanDuel, he's 14.5, and Bam is 15K over there.
That's
So
nuts.
that's up there. I don't know if I can go there, because if you don't go there, you can get five really attractive guys that are going to be in the rotation, right in the heart of the action. So that'll be interesting. Are the final lineups we come up with on FanDuel, do they include Bam and Butler, or do they fade them both?
It's crazy. I want to give you a couple of Yahoo prices, something new we haven't really done much. I just want to give our folks a feel for their pricing, start getting used to it, because I'll tell you, it's a lot of fun with their different builds. But, their highest price guys are like 50, 60 bucks, and they go all the way down to 10. So just to mention a few of the guys we were just talking about, you've got Tatum at 43, which isn't that bad. Considering Butler's at 35, and then you have Bam at 31. So same scenario. Those are sort of the next two guys. Then it goes down a range, just, sort of in comparison to DraftKings and FanDuel. You have Jaylen Brown at 29, Goran Dragic at 26, and Kemba still at 26. So his price is not really coming down as you would think. This gets
Coach,
into
before you go any further,
sure.
That comparison also stuck out to me on DraftKings. Kemba is still more expensive than Dragic.
It doesn't make sense, but I guess they're just, it's reputation and people expecting him to bust out. And I know his ownership's going to be super low, because who wants to pay that for somebody that's that slumped?
Right.
But these mid-level guys where we sort of made our money in this playoff run is, just to give you the same look in Yahoo, Smart's 22, Crowder 19, Hero 19, and Tice 16, and then you get down to some guys where you can go super cheap, like a Duncan Robinson at 11, and then you have minimum priced guys, Kelly Olynyk at 10, and stuff like that. So it gives you some chance to build, with the top guy or two, but I think we're both on the same build strategy here, and I think we can do it on all three sites, and that is buy up to Tatum, fade on Butler and Bam, because they're the next two, and by fading those two, you're able to build a good mid group in the center. It is time for us to win. I heard the alarm.
That's exactly what that means.
Yes. And so that medium build of those Crowders and Heroes and Dragic's, you can come up with some really strong lineups and not have to go down. And I badmouth these guys all the time, and they're not that bad. But I don't want Iguodala and Jones Jr. and your buddy Wanamaker. I know those guys are okay, and Wanamaker had steals and everything, but they're so risky for a cash player like myself. I got to steer clear of them. And, it's all about the drop from the two guys we talked about possibly fading. Not that they couldn't both have monster games, but if you look at Butler and Bam and you drop down to guys like even Brown and Dragic, it's a lot less fall off than you go from a Brown and Dragic down to a Wanamaker and, Robert Williams. I mean, it's just the risk factor is a lot different, and the usage and the fourth quarter minutes and all those things that make a difference. So I think that's really the key. And I will, because of the horrified look on your face, I won't sing the Tyler Hero song. I am going to pull that clip, though, of your face of like, what is he doing?
That's funny. Well, to follow up on the thought about the value plays, the one thing I'll say is, out of those guys, Wanamaker is the most attractive to me, not because I want to chase those steals, but because I like the fact that he played 25 minutes. And even if it's a regulation game, he plays 20 minutes. He's really cheap, especially on DraftKings. So he's the type of guy that allow you to get one more star in your lineup. And Boston, their rotation is so tight now, where Wanamaker was the only guy off the bench who really got more than 10 minutes.
Well, this makes my show, because I knew that was going to be your guy. And Dawson, my son, gave me all kinds of noise from the last show when he said your want to make your lineup joke was really stupid.
Yeah.
Said it was a dad joke. So I said, all right, I'm doubling down. I'm going to tell that joke again. So no, Brad is not going to want to make my lineup because he ain't going to make my lineup. So take that, Dawson.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just all about price and fit, and so he's a candidate for me. Like I said, more so on DraftKings because of the cheaper price.
I got you rattled today. I'm off the rails today. Oh man, you know what? I'm fired up though. I love this slate. I know it's a one gamer, and then you got the 2 game stuff, but I think things look more clear. It's more easy now that we have that Toronto scenario where you feel like you're forced to play 3 or 4 of them because they play 50 minutes. It allows you to sort of maneuver around with some different players. So love the build. Definitely join us. You can follow us on Twitter. We put a lot of stuff and information up there. It's at DFS Coach Talk. I'm at Joe Sarvadi, JoeSarvadi. Andrew is at Language Olympic, and Shane is at DET Sports Shane. If you're watching us on YouTube right now, mash the heck out of that like button, thumbs up, subscribe to us, please, and hit that little alarm alert in the right-hand corner so you know exactly when any of our podcasts post. We want to thank, for sure, our sponsor, BetUS. Go to betus.com.pa for all of your sports wagering. Use that promo code CoachTalk, all one word, no space, or go to dfscoachtalk.com and click on the banner. It'll take you directly to that 125% first deposit match. So that is it. I think we got pretty much on the same page, which is a good thing for the fact that, sometimes we have some completely opposite looks and sometimes they're similar. And this time I think we're pretty spot on. So we're going to tweak a few things. We'll be in our Discord, so join us. That's where we'll provide the full final lineups and the DraftKings clipboard. So any final words?
I'm looking forward to it. So thanks for tuning in and appreciate all your support out there, the viewers and the listeners.
Absolutely. And don't forget to go back and watch that shirtless Andrew podcast. We want to thank, too, our charity of choice here. We love those guys. It is mambaon3.org. That's MAMBAONTHREE.org. We will continue to support them throughout the entire basketball season here. Great charity set up for the survivors of that terrible crash. Instagram, check us out, DFS_Coach Talk. Great story on there about Coach Talk and sort of how we got things rolling. And I think that's it, man. I think we've covered the whole spectrum here. So enjoy the podcast. We're getting it up earlier than normal, so you have the whole evening and day to check out this one. Hopefully we gave you a little preview of the 2-gamer and broke down this first game so you can crush the initial showdown slates and then also help it to set up those 2-game slates. And that's where I'm going to be focusing a lot of my play too. So join us in Discord so you can get that 2-game slate lineups, because there are some great contests out there on DraftKings and Yahoo for the 2-gamers, and great showdown on all 3 of them. So that is it, sir. I think we will call it a night. Let's get ourselves scouted up. Phenomenal day on Thursday as we have the U.S. Open in golf. We have a full baseball lineup here. We've got football tuned up for Andrew and Shane. And then, of course, this 1-game slate in basketball. So we got it all. It's here, DFS Coach Talk. Those are our 4 sports. Come and join us, because all we do is try to throw those winners out there one after another. We hover around 80% on NBA win rate, and I think that is pretty much for sure the best in the industry. So join us. We humbly appreciate all of your support. keep sending us comments and questions on YouTube and on Twitter, and we'll be definitely sure to get back to you on all of them. So thanks again for tuning in. I want to thank the whole DFS Coach Talk team, people behind the scenes working their tails off. Our man Brett Trimble is there getting our whole new dashboard ready, and we've got some great things to come here at Coach Talk. So thanks again for listening, and we will catch you again tomorrow when we look to crush it in DFS.